Hi, I'm Gene Marrano. Our guests on the interview today come from two worlds that often intersect, education and business. One has risen to the top of her profession in education. The other is a longtime successful small business owner. Our guests are Dr. Lorraine Lange, Superintendent for Roanoke County Schools, and Bart Wilner, who founded Entree Computer Center almost 30 years ago. Dr. Lorraine Lange is a veteran educator who has risen to the top ranks of her profession. Lange, a New Jersey native, began her career in 1971 as a teacher in Roanoke City. Married with 3 children, Dr. Lange holds a bachelor's degree from Roanoke College, a master's from Hollins University, and a doctorate from Virginia Tech. Named as Superintendent of Roanoke County Public Schools on June 1, 2006, in 2011, Lorraine Lange was named the Virginia Superintendent of the Year by the Virginia Association of School Superintendents. Dr. Lorraine Lange, welcome to the interview.
Thank you.
I wanted to get into your background a little bit. Did you always want to become an administrator, even when you started out as a teacher many years ago at Glen Cove Elementary?
Right, I actually started out in Roanoke City, and then I came to the county after 3 years of teaching in Roanoke City. And not really, to be very honest. I graduated college and I started teaching, and then I got my master's early when I was very young, and I got it at Hollins with a concentration in English. And I was teaching at Hardy Road Elementary at the time. It's W.E. Cundiff now.
In Vinton.
In Vinton. And really, mentors are the ones, Dr. Deanna Gordon, one of the past superintendents, and she was the assistant principal, and Frank Stone, who was the principal, came in my room and just started asking me to do some leadership kinds of things. And so I did that, and then when Deanna Gordon moved up to central office, I got a phone call from Frank Stone who said, "Would you be my assistant principal?" That's how they did it years ago. And so I came up. I had 3 young children at the time. I actually just had a baby, my 3rd baby. And he said, "You're going to have to go back and get your administrative endorsement," because I didn't have that. I had a master's, and that's how it all started. So I was very fortunate to have those 2 as my mentors.
How important is it to have mentors early on? Because for one thing, I know one thing teachers or school districts battle is loss of teaching, young teachers.
Oh, I think it's so important to have a mentor. I mean, if I didn't have those mentors, Mr. Stone and Deanna Gordon, I wouldn't be here today, to be very honest, because they're the ones who shape your career. And I think, I know as, I moved along and got older, you always try to look at people in the classroom and ones who would probably good leaders, either teacher leaders or future administrators, and bring them along. So I think it's our responsibility to do that.
Seems like with teaching, either you lose them early because they want to make more money somewhere else or do something else, or they just decide that being with a bunch of kids all day is not their thing, or they stay in for the long haul. They realize that that is their...
And we're seeing more and more young people move on, but a lot of that has got to do with the economy too. I mean, my generation, you stayed for a long time and it was one job, and now you see with the economy there were lots of husbands that got laid off or got different jobs or was transferred, so we see lots of the people just coming and going, which is just a different mindset now.
I know in some school districts I've read where they're seeing some older teachers come back, people who have been in the business world or whatever, but want something else, looking for something. Are you starting? Do you have some of that in Roanoke County?
We have a few. And really, they're very good. They're career changers, and they, at one time or another, they thought they wanted to be in business or something, and then they decided they wanted to coach or be a teacher. So we're very fortunate to have those people who have some experience and age a little bit, but then they're new teachers.
I want to mention the fact that you were named the Virginia Superintendent of the Year in 2011.
Very honored.
By the Virginia Association of School Superintendents. Were you nominated by people in Roanoke County, or?
Right. Well, what happened is that the superintendents across Virginia are in regions, and we are in Region 6. So my Region 6 superintendents nominated me, and then they went to the state. So each region had a superintendent, and I at the VAS conference in May, I was named that. I was honored. When I looked at the people I stood with, I mean, any one of them could have been the state superintendent.
That's quite an honor.
Oh, it is. And when I got up to receive my honor, I said, it's really just not for me. It's because of all the people that you work with. And I say this over and over, if I didn't have a good staff, and this is everybody in Roanoke County, when you talk about even cafeteria workers, bus drivers, anybody besides teachers and my central office staff, they're the ones who make you look good. So they work every day for that. So I was truly honored.
But you put in some long hours. I know 12, 13-hour days.
Yeah.
You're at a lot of events. I'm sure you could probably go to 3 times as many events as you go to
Yeah.
because you're tugged in a million different directions.
With 5 different high schools, it's hard to get around, I mean, you know, to everything all the time, but I try to go to as many events as possible. You know, we're starting our volleyball season and football season, so we're at different games. I was at a golf tournament recently, so yeah, there are plays and just different PTA events that, you know, part of it is being part of the community. I really feel that. That's what a superintendent does. So there are many long days, but they're good.
And I know you have an open door policy, Dr. Lange. You really like that input. You encourage that input from people up and down the line. What's important about that? You know, what feedback are you looking for?
Well, these are the people that we work with. I mean, and if you don't hear the goods and the bads, you know, you don't really know what's happening out there all the time. I mean, when you have 14,000 students and all of the buildings that we have, you can't be in them every day. So if you don't hear from the parents and the teachers and just staff members what's happening, you know, that's part of what our job is. And then you have to evaluate, is it something good or is it something bad? Do I need to follow up on it or not? But yeah, I appreciate the you know, the emails and the conferences that I have. And you know, many times they're good too, so I like that. I mean, you may be having a bad day and then you get an email from somebody telling you that something good happened. It makes you feel good.
I know one of the things you mentioned in your the bio that I got was that you were very proud of the fact that you were able to finish your doctorate while raising a family and juggling career and all that. Do you talk to teachers that want to go back and learn more, or that about if you want to do it, you just have to do it? You've got to buckle down and see the prize at the end.
That's part of the mentoring, because you want people to really move on and try to get further in their career and education if that's what they want to do. And you have to have a supportive family, I'm going to tell you that. I have a great husband who we said found every buffet where children were 12 and under at the time that they can go free.
At the time, right?
Yeah, because they were young at the time. And you know, and they make some sacrifices for you too while you're in there. I think the funniest thing that ever happened was after I got my doctorate, I called up because there were many long nights that I was up you know, trying to work on my dissertation, and I gave up a lot of things. I used to play golf more often. I did all these kinds of things, and I came home and there was a big sign on my porch, and there were my golf clubs and my tennis racket and everything, you know, and said congratulations. So your family does have to sacrifice.
Absolutely. We're speaking with Dr. Lorraine Lange, Superintendent of Roanoke County Schools. This is The Interview. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Interview. I'm Gene Marrano. Our guest is Dr. Lorraine Lange, Superintendent for Roanoke County Schools. Quick question, is it harder, Dr. Lange, to teach than it was 30, 40 years ago?
Oh yes, there's no doubt about it. I tell the teachers and I tell the principals, even when I was a principal, it is very different now. I think we had good teachers years ago, but you really had more independence and autonomy in what you did in your classroom. Now there are more stipulations and it's more regimented. So, and the accountability is greater for our teachers now. So I appreciate everything that the teachers and the administrators do, because it's a tough, tough job.
How has things like No Child Left Behind and the standards of learning, how has that impacted schools? I know for some, you know, there's always a criticism of states that adhere to standards of learning that they teach to the test or whatever, but how more rigid has it made school?
It truly is. The pressure is on a lot of teachers and the administrators to make those targets, and the targets are getting tougher and tougher every year. Next year for No Child Left Behind, it's 90% of your students have to pass the SOL test in reading and math, 90% in math and 91% in reading. Now that's just not the total population of your school, it's in every subcategory. So that means if you have students with special needs or students who don't speak English or disadvantaged students, it's 90 and 91 there. So you can really have a school that has 98% of the students throughout the entire school passing, but if one subcategory doesn't pass, your school's labeled as failing, and they're not failing. And you know, I think that's our biggest contention. We don't mind standards, but when you have schools labeled as failing, when you know they're not, you know, there needs to be changes. And from what we can gather, Arnie Duncan's coming out with his reform agenda soon, in the next few days.
He's the head of the Department of Education,
yes,
correct? Right?
In Washington,
Right.
and he's coming out with his reform agenda, and then he will say to the states, if you adhere by some of these standards, there'll be relief and no child left behind. But we won't find that out probably until next
Right.
spring.
Because I think the school board has even kicked around or mused about foregoing some federal funding, which is tied to standards, in return for getting away from the standards.
Right.
But that would be tough for the school district to give
It
up
is,
$1 million
and it's-
plus.
Right, and it's just conversation at this point. It happened at a work session with our school board, and they're just tossing around lots of things, and I think it's good to think about outside the box. What can we do? I mean, our school board wants the best for all of our students, and they just don't want our schools labeled failing. We don't feel like we have failing schools.
Are parents in Roanoke County schools, are they demanding? They demand for their kids, or are they willing to jump on board and help out also?
Yeah, I think we get good response. Even though a school doesn't pass AYP, you don't really hear too much about it. So I think parents are just looking individually at their child as what it should be. And that's something we're hoping that the Commonwealth of Virginia will move towards, like a growth model. Because right now they're just saying 91% and 90%. But if you could take a growth model where you have a student at a certain level, and then if that student makes progress, that's what you want, no matter where they are.
Right.
So if you
You're
have
going
a
in the right
student,
direction.
exactly. If you have a student very low and they have to make 91, that's going to be tough. But if they can make growth, that's what you want every student to do.
Talk about other challenges, budget crunches. Last few years, it's been a tough budget. I know you work closely with the school board and even the Board of Supervisors to some extent. How much of a challenge has that been? And despite that, Lorraine, you've been able to, you know, renovations to Cave Spring Middle are going on, brand new school, Masons Cove Elementary. So talk about the budget issues.
It's amazing, yeah. I mean, at a time when we're losing money, what we're able to do, and that's because we have a good relationship with our Board of Supervisors. And for the construction money, we put money aside each year, and they get some money and we get some money, and this is a good
Right.
time to build with the recession, so we're getting good prices. Our Masons Cove Elementary was almost cash. So when you can do that, you need to build. So you need to keep that infrastructure going in order to have a good environment too. And the one thing that has been good for us is that we've got a lot of schools that we did not have to lay off any full-time employee. But because we have so many schools, we're able to move people around. I know that hasn't been popular at times because someone may have been at a school for a long time, but if we can move them over when somebody retires and cut a position there,
Right.
it has helped.
And they still have a job.
And they still have a job,
Right,
that's right.
right.
So we've been real fortunate in Roanoke County to continue the program that we have. We were able to reinstate the one-on-one laptop initiative that we have in the high school. We have one of the best technology programs
Where the kids
in the
get
States.
laptops, right?
Yes,
I know that, and technology is important to you. Laptops, whiteboards, that type of thing.
It really is, for the simple reason that it's a sign of the future. When students move on, whether they go to college or to a career, it's going to be technology driven. So our students are prepared, and I've heard from parents after our students leave that the technology program has really prepared them for whatever they're in.
And I know you believe in a close relationship between the business world and the education world. You're on the board at Virginia Western, which has many programs that really
Right.
get kids into jobs. And is that something that the school system is gearing itself more towards?
Oh yeah, I think the business community and the postgraduate community has to work together. I mean, you know, that's two of the things that we've done. Virginia Western has an excellent program that many of our students feed into, and we're very supportive of the program. So we have a large amount of dual enrollment students. We have started an associate's degree where students can graduate from Roanoke County schools and actually graduate with an associate's degree and then either move into the career world or move into a four-year school at that time. They have great industrial programs, so we work with Virginia Western very closely. And you have to work with the chambers of commerce. I think that's so important too, because our students are going to eventually go into the world of work, and they're telling us what skills are needed.
Mm-hmm. And so some of those are actually winding up in programs in the county schools?
Exactly. That's how we find out where we need to go. And we've got many programs and many students who get industrial certifications right off the bat when they graduate, and they can go into a good paying job at that point.
What are you most proud of, Lorraine, during your tenure as superintendent? I mean, you have to look back at one or two things that you're most proud of.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to think, I know that it's the instructional program that we have overall, that we prepare our students, and the technology and everything, as I just mentioned, all moves together with it, that I feel like we prepare our students for whatever they want afterwards. We give them many choices, not only in the academics, but in performing arts or art or mass communications with our specialty schools. Over at Burton, we have an engineering program. So I think that we have choices for our students, that they can either go into a career with career and technical, they can go into performing arts, or they can go on to a four-year college. So that's what I'm really proud of.
Sounds good. Dr. Lorraine Lange, Superintendent, Roanoke County Schools. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is The Interview. I'm Gene Marrano. We'll be right back.